The night sky above Earth Colony 7 shimmered with the pale glow of distant stars. Commander Lena Arvis, leader of the Deathworlder fleet's observation team, stood on the balcony of the research station, staring into the darkness of space. She had seen many strange things in her career: dying suns, drifting wrecks of forgotten ships, even alien distress calls that turned out to be traps. But this night felt different. A faint signal had reached their system, a trembling whisper that somehow carried fear, sorrow, and desperation. It wasn't a call for war or alliance. It was a cry for help. Lena closed her eyes, letting the soft wind brush her face. Her second-in-command, Lieutenant Ryan Cole, stepped beside her. "Still decoding the signal, Commander," he said, his voice calm but uncertain. "It's old, possibly centuries old. But the message structure, it's not like anything we've seen before." "Play it," Lena ordered quietly. Ryan pressed a few keys on his wrist console. A faint static filled the air, then a trembling, almost musical voice echoed through the speakers. "If any sentient life hears this, we plead for mercy. Our world burns, our people fade. We have nothing left but hope. Please, someone, listen." The room fell silent. The sound wasn't robotic or artificial. It was raw emotion. Even through the distortion, Lena could hear the pain. Whoever sent this message wasn't just trying to survive, they were grieving. "Source?" Lena asked. "Outer Rim, Sector Epsilon 9, Ryan replied. "That's uncharted territory. Beyond our borders." "Uncharted means dangerous," Lena said softly, but her eyes didn't leave the stars. "Prepare the data. I want the Fleet Command notified within the hour." The next morning, the Deathworlder Fleet Council gathered in the orbital hall, a grand chamber where the leaders of humanity's colonies met. Holographic stars twinkled above the table, displaying maps of the known galaxy. Lena stood straight as Admiral Crane, a broad-shouldered veteran with silver hair, stared at her report. "You're suggesting we send a rescue mission," he said slowly. "Yes, sir," Lena replied. "The signal's not human, but it's intelligent. It's emotional. If we ignore it, an entire civilization might vanish forever." The Admiral frowned. "You know our laws, Commander. Deathworlders don't interfere with unknown alien systems without consent or invitation." "But this is an invitation," she said firmly. "It's a plea for help," the Council murmured among themselves. For decades, Deathworlders, humans adapted to harsh planets, had been known for their toughness, not their compassion. Other species feared them, calling them the children of death for surviving where no other beings could. But despite that reputation, there were still hearts among them that refused to turn away from suffering. Finally, the Admiral spoke again. "You have a heart, Commander Arvis, that's clear. But hearts don't win wars." "This isn't a war," she replied softly. "It's mercy." The silence stretched until Crane sighed. "Very well. You'll take a small team, no more than 2 ships. If the signal's real, bring back evidence. If it's a trap, retreat immediately." Lena saluted, a small smile forming on her lips. "Understood, sir." 2 days later, the Deathworlder fleet vessel Aegis Dawn soared through the void, followed by its sister ship, Orion's Light. The hum of the engines was like a heartbeat echoing through metal halls. Inside, Lena watched the stars streak past. Her crew worked quietly around her. Ryan on communications, Dr. Mira Hahn in charge of biology and analysis, and pilot Dane Voss steering through hyperspace. "Any updates on the signal?" Lena asked. "Still repeating the same sequence," Ryan replied. "But the energy pattern's decaying. If we don't find the source soon, it might vanish completely." Lena nodded. "Then we'd better hurry." Dr. Mira looked up from her console. "You ever wonder why they called us?" she asked. "Out of all the stars, all the civilizations, why send a message toward a Deathworlder system?" Ryan chuckled softly. "Maybe they heard we don't give up easily." But Lena didn't smile. Something about this felt personal, almost destined. The more she listened to that trembling alien voice, the more she felt an invisible thread pulling her across the stars. Hours later, the ships dropped out of hyperspace. Before them lay a dying world. The planet was dark and broken, its surface covered with cracks that glowed faintly from within, like veins of molten light. Storms of ash circled its atmosphere. It was beautiful and heartbreaking at the same time. Ryan gasped. "I'm picking up faint power readings." "Structures still standing, but minimal life signs," Mira whispered. This world's been dead for centuries. Lena's eyes narrowed. Then who sent the message? Suddenly, the communication console beeped. A weak, trembling signal appeared, this time stronger and more direct. "Please, is someone there?" "Please respond." Ryan froze. "That's the same voice." Lena leaned closer. "Open a channel." "This is Commander Lena Arvis of the Deathworlder fleet. We received your signal." "Identify yourself," Static answered. Then a soft sound like a sob filled the bridge. "You came?" "We thought no one would." Lena's breath caught. The voice was faint but alive. "Where are you?" she asked quickly. "Underground shelter. Collapsing soon." "I am the last of my kind," Mira whispered. "Oh no." Without hesitation, Lena turned to Dane. "Get us into orbit. We're going down." "But Commander," Ryan said, "the atmosphere's unstable, ion storms everywhere. We might not survive re-entry." "Someone's waiting for us," Lena said simply. "We don't leave people to die." Not anymore. The descent was chaos. Fire streaked across the hull as lightning bolts danced through the clouds. The Aegis dawn shook violently, alarms blaring. But through it all, Lena stood firm, eyes locked on the navigation screen. "Almost there," Dane shouted. "Landing coordinates locked. North Hemisphere. Brace for impact." The ship hit the surface with a roar, dust and debris flying in every direction. For a moment, everything was silent except the echo of the engines cooling down. Then Lena unstrapped and stood up. "Ryan, Mira, you're with me. Dane, stay with the ship. Keep systems ready for launch." Outside, the air shimmered with heat and dust. The ground was cracked, the sky tinted red with storms. But amid the ruins, a faint light flickered in the distance like a heartbeat refusing to die. As they approached, they saw a structure half buried in the earth. Its walls were marked with strange symbols glowing weakly. The entrance was caved in, but a narrow path led inside. Ryan scanned the air. Oxygen levels minimal but survivable. "Then let's move," Lena said. Inside the ruins, the air was heavy and silent. Broken machines lined the walls, long dead. At the center of the chamber sat a small, transparent pod glowing faintly blue. Inside it, curled up and fragile, was a being unlike anything they had ever seen. Tall and slender, with luminous skin that shimmered like glass, and eyes that held the weight of sorrow. The alien opened its eyes weakly. "You came." Lena knelt beside the pod. "We heard your voice. You're safe now." "Safe." The creature's voice was like music fading into the wind. "Too late. My world is gone, but thank you for listening." Lena reached out slowly, her hand hovering above the pod. "What's your name?" "Elira," the alien whispered. "Keeper of the light." And then the light in the pod dimmed slightly. The readings on Mira's scanner began to drop. "She's fading," Mira said urgently. "We need to stabilize her." Lena looked at Elira, who smiled faintly. "You cannot save me, but you can save what I protect." From a compartment beside her, Elira lifted a small crystal sphere. It glowed softly in her trembling hands. "This is our memory, our history. Please, keep it safe." Lena gently took the crystal. It pulsed once, then dimmed. "Elira, please stay with us," Lena said, her voice breaking. But Elira's eyes were distant now, her voice barely a whisper. "The stars remember kindness, even when the world forgets." And with that, the last of her light faded away. The chamber fell silent. Mira bowed her head. She waited all these years, just for someone to answer. Rian wiped his eyes quietly. We were her last hope. Lena held the crystal close to her chest. "Then we'll make sure her story isn't forgotten." Outside, as they stepped back into the storm, Lena looked at the broken sky one last time. The clouds parted slightly, revealing a single bright star. It flickered gently, almost like a farewell. The storm outside the ruins had begun to calm when Commander Lena Arvis and her team stepped back toward their ship. The wind still carried the dust of a dead world, but it felt lighter somehow, like the planet itself was finally breathing out one last sigh. Lena held the glowing crystal close to her chest. It pulsed faintly, like a tiny heart still beating. The light inside it shimmered softly with colors she couldn't name. She could almost feel warmth from it, as if Elira's presence lingered within. Lieutenant Rian Cole walked beside her in silence, his expression thoughtful. Hard to believe she waited all that time, centuries maybe, just to hand that thing over. Lena nodded slowly. Hope can outlast time, Ryan. Sometimes it's all that keeps someone alive. Behind them, Dr. Mira Han scanned the area one last time with her sensor. No more life signs, she said softly. This planet is empty now. Lena looked back at the ruined city behind them. The towers, half buried in sand, looked like broken bones reaching for the sky. Then let's make sure her people aren't forgotten. When they reached the Aegis Dawn, the ship's engines rumbled back to life. Pilot Dane Voss met them at the hatch, his face tight with worry. You made it back, he said with relief. I was about to launch without you. The storm nearly fried our navigation sensors. We got what we came for, Lena said, holding up the crystal. Elira's last gift. Dane stared at the glowing object. That thing's beautiful. And strange. It's more than that, Mira said, eyes wide. If I'm right, it's some kind of memory archive. It might hold everything about her species, their history, their culture, even their technology. Ryan raised a brow. You mean like an entire civilization stored in that tiny ball? Mira nodded. Exactly. But I'll need time to decode it. Lena placed the crystal gently into a containment cradle in the lab chamber. Then let's get home. We'll study it there. Journey through the stars, the ships rose from the surface, leaving the dying world behind. As the engines pushed them into space, Lena looked out the viewport one last time. The planet below was a dim sphere surrounded by dust and light. A thought whispered in her mind. We were too late to save them, but not too late to remember them. Hours turned into days as they traveled back through hyperspace. The endless flow of stars outside was like a river of light, carrying them through time and silence. Inside the lab, Dr. Mira worked tirelessly. Her tools hovered over the crystal, reading its strange energy pulses. Ryan often joined her, fascinated by the patterns. It's not just energy, Mira explained one evening. It's consciousness. There are emotional signatures encoded inside. Feelings, memories, maybe even voices. Ryan leaned closer. So you're saying Elira's people are alive inside that crystal? Not exactly alive, Mira said thoughtfully, but preserved. Their essence. Their story. Lena entered the lab just then, her uniform neat but her eyes tired. Any progress? Mira smiled faintly. A lot. I've managed to translate a few data streams. It's mostly images. Cities made of glass, oceans that shine in the dark, people with glowing skin. They called themselves the Solari. The Solari, Lena repeated softly. That's a beautiful name. It means children of the sun, Mira said. They were peaceful. Artists, scientists, dreamers. But something happened, a war maybe, or a disaster. I can't tell yet, Ryan frowned. And Elira was the last one left? Mira nodded sadly. The keeper of the light, she was their historian. It was her duty to protect their legacy, even if everyone else was gone. Lena stared at the crystal, her reflection shimmering on its surface. And now that duty's ours. A message awakened 3 days later. As the ship approached the border of known space, the crystal began to change. Without warning, it glowed brighter. So bright the room filled with white light. The ship's systems flickered and alarms beeped in confusion. Ryan rushed into the lab. What's happening? I don't know, Mira shouted, shielding her eyes. It's activating itself. Lena entered seconds later. Containment stable? Barely, Mira answered. It's not attacking, it's communicating. The light formed a sphere in the air above the crystal. Then slowly the shape of a figure appeared, translucent, shimmering, and familiar. It was Elira. Her image was faint, but her eyes were kind and full of light. To those who hear this message, she began, her voice calm and melodic, you are the inheritors of our memory. We are the Solari, the ones who once sang to the stars. Our world is gone, but our spirit remains. Everyone in the room froze. Mira's hands trembled as she recorded everything. We face the shadow, Elira continued. A hunger that devours light. It came from beyond our skies, feeding on worlds, leaving nothing but silence. We fought, but we were too few. Our light faded. But we left this crystal behind, hoping someone would one day listen. Lena's heart pounded. A hunger that devours light. What did she mean? The holographic Elira turned slightly, as if hearing her across time. If you have found this message, beware. The shadow is not gone. It moves between the stars still unseen. But where there is light, there is hope. You who walk among death and yet carry life, you are the balance. Then the light dimmed. Elira's final words echoed softly. Do not let the stars go dark again. And with that, the image faded away, leaving only silence and the soft hum of the ship. The weight of the message for a long time no one spoke. The meaning of Elira's words sank deep into their minds. Rian finally broke the silence. Commander, what if that shadow thing is real? Lena stared at the empty air where Elira's image had been. Then we might not just be carrying a memory, she said quietly. We might be carrying a warning. Mira's voice was soft but steady. If that thing still exists, it could be a danger to every world we know. Lena looked out at the stars through the viewport. Then the Deathworlder fleet must know. We'll take the crystal to the Council. They need to see this. Return to the Council. When the Aegis Dawn finally docked at the main orbital station, the crew stepped out, tired but determined. The message had changed everything. Inside the Council Hall, Admiral Crane waited with several high-ranking officers. Holographic displays shimmered behind him, showing maps of the galaxy. You've been gone longer than expected, Crane said sharply. I hope you brought back more than an empty story. Lena placed the crystal on the table. We brought back history. And a warning. Mira activated the projection. Elira's recorded message filled the hall, her voice echoing softly through the chamber. The council members watched in stunned silence as the alien figure spoke about the shadow and the fall of her people. When it ended, the room was quiet. Admiral Crane leaned back slowly. If this is true, we're facing something older than any of us can imagine. Ryan stepped forward. Sir, whatever it is, it destroyed an entire civilization. We can't ignore this. Crane's eyes met Lena's. What do you propose, Commander? Lena took a deep breath. We send a search fleet beyond our borders. If the shadow exists, we find it before it finds us. And if there are others still out there, other survivors like Elira, we help them. The Admiral was silent for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. You're suggesting the Deathworlders become saviors. Lena met his gaze firmly. Maybe it's time we show the galaxy that we're more than what they fear. The night before departure. That night, as the fleet prepared for launch, Lena stood alone on the observation deck. The stars stretched endlessly before her, a million lights in the void. She held the crystal again, watching it glow softly in her hands. Elira, she whispered, we'll honor your people. And we'll find the truth. Ryan joined her quietly. Hard to believe we're about to explore beyond known space again, he said, smiling faintly. She looked at him. Are you scared? He shrugged. A little. But if that thing's real, I'd rather face it than wait for it to come find us. Lena smiled. That's the Deathworlder way. They stood in silence for a moment, watching the stars. Mira's voice came over the intercom. Commander, the fleet's ready. We're awaiting your orders. Lena looked one last time at the endless sky. Somewhere out there, the memory of the Solari waited. And maybe, just maybe, something else watched as well. She pressed the intercom button. All ships, this is Commander Arvis. Set course for the outer rim. Let's bring the light back to the stars. The engines roared to life and the fleet began to move. The light from their thrusters burned bright against the darkness, like new stars being born. And as they vanished into the horizon, the crystal in Lena's hand pulsed once, bright and alive, like it was answering a call only it could hear. The fleet cut through the dark of space like silver arrows. Their engines glowed blue against the black sky, moving deeper into the unknown. Commander Lena Arvis stood at the front of the Aegis Dawn's bridge, eyes locked on the swirling star map that stretched across the main display. Around her, crew members moved with quiet purpose. The words of Elira still echoed in her mind. Do not let the stars go dark again. Behind her, Lieutenant Ryan Cole worked at his console. No signals yet, Commander. Just empty systems and background radiation. Dr. Mirahan was seated near the crystal, still glowing softly inside its containment field. It's reacting again, she said. Every time we pass a certain sector, its pulse changes, as if it recognizes something. Lena turned to her. Could it be leading us somewhere? Maybe, Mira replied thoughtfully. The Solari might have left hidden markers, energy trails, memory echoes. The crystal could be tuned to find them. Lena studied the faint shimmer of light inside the crystal. Then we follow where it leads. A ghost signal 2 days into the journey, Ryan's console beeped sharply. Commander, picking up a faint signal, non-human frequency. Same pattern as Elira's original distress call. Lena's pulse quickened. "Play it," static filled the bridge. Then a voice, broken and weak, whispered through the speakers. "Light. Fading. Help us." The dark comes. Mira's eyes widened. "That's not a recording. That's live. Location?" Lena asked quickly. Rian scanned the data. "Sector Theta 12, 3 systems ahead. A binary star region." Lena's gaze hardened. "Set course immediately." The fleet shifted its path, engines blazing. The stars streaked past as they jumped through hyperspace, every second stretching into eternity. When they emerged, a golden light filled the view. 2 suns orbited each other, casting shadows across a chain of shattered planets. Debris fields glimmered like dust frozen in motion. Rian frowned. "Something tore this place apart," Mira whispered. "It looks like a graveyard." "Search for survivors," Lena ordered. The scanners swept through the debris. Minutes passed in silence. Then Ryan's console flashed. "Commander, I found something. An energy signature on the largest fragment. It's faint but alive. Bring us closer." As the Aegis Dawn approached, the image on the screen sharpened. Amid the floating remains of a broken world stood a small structure, half buried in metallic dust. Lights flickered inside. Lena felt her chest tighten. "Prepare a landing team. We're going down." The second survivor. The air inside the ruin was cold and thin. Lena, Ryan, and Mira moved carefully through the broken corridor. The walls glowed faintly with the same crystalline patterns they had seen on Elira's world. "This must have been another Solari colony," Mira said softly. "Maybe one that survived a little longer." Ryan swept his scanner. "There's someone ahead." They entered a large chamber, its roof half collapsed. At its center was a containment pod, similar to Elira's but cracked and dim. Inside lay a figure, pale and still. Mira hurried forward. "He's alive, but barely." Lena pressed a control panel and the pod hissed open. The alien inside gasped weakly, his skin shimmering faintly in the dim light. His eyes opened, soft silver filled with confusion and fear. Who are you?" he whispered. Lena knelt beside him. "We're Deathworlders. We came because of Elira's message." The alien's eyes widened slightly. "Elira, she lived?" Mira shook her head gently. "She waited until the end. She gave us your people's crystal." The alien's hand trembled. "Then the light endures." Lena smiled softly. "What's your name?" "I am Kyle, once guardian of the Starforge." "Kyle," Lena repeated. "You're safe now." He shook his head weakly. "No one is safe. The shadow follows. It destroyed our suns. It eats the light until nothing remains." Rian frowned. "You mean the same thing Elira warned us about?" Kale nodded slowly. "It comes in silence. Not ships, not life, just emptiness. It feeds on energy, thought, even memory. When it touches a star, it dies." The room grew colder. Lena met his gaze. "How do we stop it?" Kale's voice was barely a whisper. "We tried, we failed. But the Solari built something, the Beacon of Dawn. It can push back the darkness. Elira knew of it. The crystal you hold is the key," Mira gasped. "The key?" Kale nodded faintly. "The beacon is hidden beyond the Veil Nebula. Only the crystal can guide the way. But you must hurry. The shadow is near." Escape from the graveyard. Before they could ask more, alarms blared through their suits. Ryan checked his scanner. "Commander, energy spikes everywhere. Something's draining power from the structure." Kale's eyes filled with fear. "It's here." Lena stood quickly. "Everyone move!" They ran through the crumbling corridor as lights flickered out one by one. A strange darkness seeped through the cracks like smoke that swallowed light. It wasn't physical. It was absence itself. The air grew heavy, sounds fading until only their breathing remained. Rian stumbled. "Commander, I can't see." Lena grabbed his arm. "Keep moving. Follow my voice." Behind them, the walls began to collapse, eaten away by the spreading shadow. At the exit, Mira looked back. The darkness reached toward them, silent and cold. "It's like it's alive." "Don't stop!" Lena shouted. They burst out of the ruins and raced toward their shuttle. As they leaped inside, Dane's voice came through the comm. "Commander, what's happening down there?" "Take off now!" Lena ordered. The shuttle lifted just as the ground below cracked apart. The ruin vanished beneath a wave of darkness that swallowed everything. From space, it looked like a black mist spreading across the debris field. devouring what remained of the planet. Ryan stared in shock. That's it, isn't it? The shadow. Lena's voice was quiet but firm. Set course for the fleet. We need to get Kale to safety. Aboard the Aegis Dawn, Kale lay in the medbay, his energy fading. Mira worked quickly, trying to stabilize his vitals with gentle light therapy. Lena stood beside him. Can you hold on? Kale's voice was weak but clear. You must take the crystal to the beacon. If the shadow reaches it first, all light will fall. We'll get there, Lena said firmly. You have my word. He looked at her with eyes that seemed to see beyond the stars. You carry strength born of pain. The Solari called such souls deathborn. Perhaps that is why the crystal chose you. Lena felt a lump in her throat. I don't know about being chosen, but I know what loss feels like. And I won't let it happen again. Kale smiled faintly. Then maybe there is hope. Moments later, he fell into a deep, peaceful sleep. Mira placed a hand over his pod. He's stable for now. Ryan turned to Lena. Commander, if that shadow can eat whole stars, what chance do we have? Lena looked out at the stars beyond the viewport. We don't run from the dark, Lieutenant. We light the way. The pursuit as the fleet moved toward the coordinates Kale had given. The stars ahead began to dim. One by one, systems that should have been bright now glowed faintly, like candles flickering in the wind. Rian checked his console. Multiple systems offline, no transmissions, no life signs. It's like they were erased, Mira whispered. The shadows moving faster than we thought. Lena's voice was calm but strong. Then we moved faster. Suddenly the crystal pulsed violently. The lights on the bridge flickered. A deep low hum filled the air. Mira gasped. It's projecting coordinates, new ones. It's guiding us. Follow them, Lena ordered. The ships turned, engines flaring brighter. The stars stretched into long ribbons as they jumped through hyperspace. For a moment, everything was silent. Then they emerged into a breathtaking sight. Before them spread a vast nebula glowing in hues of gold and blue. Lightning flickered through its clouds like veins of living light. At its heart stood a massive structure, an ancient station shaped like a starburst. The Beacon of Dawn, Mira whispered in awe. Ryan grinned. We actually found it. Lena's eyes softened. No, we were meant to. The light of hope. The ships approached slowly, sensors scanning the structure. It was enormous, half buried in the nebula's dust but still alive. Faint energy pulsing through its core. Kyle, now awake, appeared on the comm screen. You found it. The beacon still sleeps. The crystal must awaken it. Only then can it push back the dark, Lena nodded. Tell us what to do, he smiled weakly. Bring the crystal to the central chamber. Place it in the heart of light. Moments later, Lena and her team stood inside the beacon's core. The chamber was vast, filled with pillars of translucent material that glowed softly when touched. At the center stood a pedestal shaped like a blooming star. Lena approached slowly, holding the crystal in both hands. It pulsed gently as if aware of where it was. Mira whispered, It feels alive. Lena smiled faintly. Maybe it is. She placed the crystal on the pedestal. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then light exploded through the chamber, cascading through every pillar, every wall, every corridor. The entire beacon came alive, shining like a second sun. Outside, the nebula blazed with color, and the fleet's sensors lit up with energy readings beyond anything they'd seen before. Ryan laughed in awe. It's beautiful. But amid the beauty, Mira noticed something on her console. Commander, there's movement. The shadow's coming. It followed us, Lena's eyes hardened. Then we'll stand our ground. She turned toward the shining core, watching the light grow brighter.
Illyra Kale.
If this beacon truly holds your hope, let it shine now. Outside, darkness began to close in, vast and silent, spreading like a tide. But as it touched the light of the beacon, it recoiled. The light grew stronger, pushing back the dark like dawn, breaking across an endless night. The beacon of dawn pulsed with light, spreading its warmth across the nebula. Commander Lena Arvis stood at the central chamber, gazing at the radiant energy. The light reflected in her eyes, painting her face with shades of gold and blue. For the first time since leaving the dying world, she felt a moment of calm, but she knew it would not last. Outside, sensors detected movement. The shadow that Elira and Kale had warned about was still out there. Vast, silent, and patient, it moved through the stars like a predator waiting for the perfect moment. Lieutenant Rian Cole walked to Lena's side, his brow furrowed. It's circling the beacon. Every time the light pulses, it hesitates, but it hasn't gone yet. Lena nodded. We've lit the first spark, but this doesn't defeat it. We need to understand it. Why it hunts, where it comes from, and what it fears. Dr. Mirahan examined the beacon's control panel. I'm reading traces of ancient energy in the nebula. Older than the Solari, older than recorded galactic history. The shadow isn't just a natural force. It's intelligent. Rian leaned over. Intelligent? You mean, it thinks? Mira nodded grimly. Yes, and it reacts to light and energy the same way a predator reacts to movement. Lena's eyes hardened. Then we don't just fight it, we outsmart it. The discovery of the ancients' Kale resting in the medbay spoke weakly over the comm. There is more you must know. The shadow is older than the Solari. It existed before their stars were born. It feeds on creation itself. World civilizations, even memories. And humans your kind carry something within that can either attract or repel it. Lena frowned. Humans? How are we connected? Kale's silver eyes glimmered with pain. Long ago, our ancestors observed your planet. They recorded energy patterns, life signatures, hope, courage. You inherited these patterns. The shadow senses them. That is why it hunts in our region now. It has learned that some species are dangerous, because they can resist it. Rian swallowed. So we're on the shadows list? Kel nodded. Not all humans. Only those who survive Deathworlds. Those like you. Lena clenched her fists. Then we're meant to be here. We've faced worse than this and survived. Now it comes to test us. Mira placed her hand on the crystal. The beacon is our guide. But the shadow won't give up. We must be ready for anything. The first encounter hours later, the fleet detected the shadow approaching. It was unlike anything the crew had ever seen. On the sensors, it appeared as a massive void, an absence of energy that stretched for thousands of kilometers. It moved slowly but with purpose, consuming light and warmth in its path. Ryan's voice trembled slightly. Commander, it's huge. Lena stood tall. Then we light it up. Everyone activate all defensive lights, not to attack, but to warn and confuse it. The fleet's ships turned their engines and emitters toward the shadow, casting beams of pure energy into the void. The shadow recoiled slightly as if surprised, but did not retreat. It circled the beacon, probing, learning. Keep the beacon at full power, Lena commanded. We're the signal. We're the warning. We're hope. Mira watched the crystal pulse in response to the shadow's presence. It reacts. To emotion too. Fear, courage, hope. It senses everything. Kale's voice came through the comm again. Do not let fear guide you. The shadow will feed on it. Only light and courage will protect you. The plan to outwit darkness. Lena called a meeting in the central command room. Maps of the nebula glowed in holographic form around them. The shadow hunts through void and silence, Lena explained. It consumes stars, energy, and memories. But it hesitates in the presence of concentrated life force. That's why the beacon worked. But we need more than a single structure. Ryan asked. What do you mean? We create a network, Lena said. We will use the fleet, the beacon, and the crystal to make a web of light. The shadow can't consume all of it at once. Every pulse, every ship, every heartbeat adds to the resistance. And then, Mira tilted her head. Then what? We draw it in, Lena said, her eyes steely. Trap it where its own darkness becomes ineffective. Kale's silver eyes softened. It will be dangerous. The shadow learns quickly. You must synchronize your will, your courage, and your hope. Only together can you withstand it. Ryan leaned back. So, we face it head-on, not with weapons, but with our presence? Lena nodded. Exactly. And the crystal will amplify that presence. It is Elira's gift. It holds the essence of an entire civilization, proof that light can survive anything. The preparation, for 2 days, the fleet moved into position. The ships aligned with the beacon, forming a geometric pattern across the nebula. Every vessel projected energy pulses into space, creating a lattice of light. Mira monitored the crystal, its glow syncing with the beacon. It's responding to each pulse from the fleet. The light is spreading faster than expected, but the shadow is aware. It moves toward us. Outside, the void of the shadow stretched across the nebula, slowly approaching the network of light. Lena walked among the crew. Remember what Kale said. Fear feeds it. Trust in the light, trust in each other. We've faced impossible odds before and we survived. This is no different, Ryan grinned despite the tension. I've never felt braver. Or colder. Mira chuckled softly. Brave enough, cold enough, and smart enough. That's the Deathworlder way. The shadow attacks as the shadow neared. Tendrils of darkness reached toward the beacon. Ships trembled under the influence of its void. Energy readings plunged in seconds. Brace yourselves, Lena shouted.
Hold the light!
The crystal in her hands pulsed violently, sending beams of soft blue light throughout the fleet. The shadow recoiled at the sudden brightness, but its tendrils lashed back faster than anticipated, trying to pierce the lattice. Kale's voice echoed, "Do not waver. Concentrate on hope." Every crew member felt the cold fear pressing against their minds like invisible fingers. Some faltered. Lena's own pulse quickened, but she forced herself to focus, imagining every survivor she had saved, every child who deserved light, every star waiting to shine again. The crystal responded, brightening further. The beacon flared, and suddenly the shadow hesitated. Rian shouted, "It's working. The light, it's restraining it." "Yes," Mira said. "Keep it steady. Do not let panic take hold." The shadow recoiled violently, almost screaming in silence. Its tendrils writhed, attempting to push past the network of light. But every ship, every pulse, every heartbeat of courage pushed it back. The core confrontation. Lena realized then what must be done. "I will take the crystal into the heart of the beacon. We need direct resonance to fully awaken its power," Rian protested. "Commander, it's too dangerous." Lena shook her head. "We don't have time. It's the only way to stop it now." With Kale guiding her, Lena entered the central chamber of the beacon. The light surrounded her, warm and alive. She placed the crystal at the very center of the glowing pedestal. Immediately, the chamber exploded with radiant energy. Waves of light surged outward, flowing through the fleet, illuminating every corner of the nebula. The shadow shrieked in silent fury. Its massive void recoiled, twisting in confusion. It had never encountered such concentrated courage, such concentrated hope. Mira monitored from the control room. "It's faltering. The shadow, it doesn't know how to fight this." Ryan nodded. "It's like shining a star into a black hole, it pushes back." Lena felt the power of every life she had ever protected, every memory preserved in the Solari crystal flowing through her. And for the first time, she believed it could be defeated. Victory at dawn, the shadow writhed, then slowly began to retreat. Its dark tendrils withdrew from the fleet, from the beacon, from the nebula. The stars, once consumed, started to shine again. Kale's voice whispered over the comm, "You did it." "The light endures." Mira hugged herself, tears in her eyes. "It's finally over. At least for now." Rian smiled, exhausted but elated. "We held the darkness back. We actually did it." Lena stood in the center of the chamber, the crystal glowing in her hands. "This is more than a victory," she said softly. "It's proof that hope, courage, and unity can resist even the oldest darkness." Kale appeared faintly, his energy recovering. "You are the Deathborn indeed. You carried our memory and gave it life again. For that we are grateful." Lena looked at him. "Rest now, Kale. Rest now, Elira. Your people's story will live forever." Outside, the nebula shimmered in colors no human eye had ever seen. Gold, blue, and silver, dancing together in a ballet of light. The fleet moved among the stars, its glow like a living promise. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy felt alive again. Inside the ship, every crew member watched in silence as the darkness retreated. Mira whispered, "It's working." Ryan smiled. "We're winning." Lena closed her eyes, feeling the warmth of the light on her face. "No," she said softly. "Hope is winning." As the beacon's glow spread across the nebula, the stars around them began to brighten again. One by one, they came back to life, shining stronger than before. Kyle's faint voice echoed through the comm, full of peace. "The light endures. Thank you, Deathborn." Lena looked toward the stars and whispered, "Rest now, Elira. Rest now, Kale. Your light is safe." The nebula stretched endlessly around the fleet, shimmering in gold, blue, and silver. The shadow, once a looming threat that devoured stars and memories, had retreated beyond the edge of known space. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy felt a fragile peace. Commander Lena Arvis stood at the front of the Aegis Dawn, holding the Solari crystal in her hands. Its soft pulse matched the beat of her heart, a reminder that Elira, Kale, and the Solari lived on, not in flesh, but in memory and courage. Lieutenant Rian Cole leaned against the viewport, gazing at the nebula's radiant colors. I still can't believe it. We actually did it, Lena nodded quietly. It wasn't just us. Every pulse from the fleet, every moment of courage, it all counted. The light isn't just in the beacon. It's in all of us. Dr. Mira Han joined them, her eyes shining with wonder. The crystal, it's incredible. It contains more than memories. It's knowledge, emotion, art, history. The Solari didn't just survive in memory. They created a bridge for us to carry forward. Rian whistled softly. A bridge to the stars. Sounds like something Elira would have said. Returned to known space, the fleet moved slowly back toward known space. Every planet, every colony, received reports of the Shadow's retreat and the power of the beacon. The Solari crystal had not only saved their own fleet, but also reinforced hope across the galaxy. The journey home gave Lena time to think. Months ago, they had responded to a simple plea, a voice trembling across the stars. They had found Elira's world, Kale, and the beacon, and had faced the oldest darkness. Now, with the crystal safe and the Shadow temporarily repelled, Lena reflected on what it meant to be a Deathworlder. Not just survivors, but carriers of hope, courage, and light. Ryan interrupted her thoughts. Commander, sensors are picking up something strange, an unknown signal from your home system. Lena raised her brow. Let's see. The display lit up with energy readings unlike anything in their logs. Faint patterns of light, reminiscent of the Solari's style, pulsed across the screen. Mira leaned forward, astonished. Commander, it's a message. Not from the Solari. It's from another civilization. They've seen what we did, Lena smiled softly. Then hope spreads faster than darkness. Homecoming weeks later, the fleet entered orbit around Earth Colony 7. People on the ground watched as ships shimmered with the light of the Solari crystal and the beacon's energy. The glow was beautiful, warm, and alive. It had become a symbol, a reminder that courage could shine across the void. Lena, Ryan, and Mira were greeted with admiration and gratitude. The council had been updated in real time with the fleet's progress. Citizens and leaders alike had learned about the Solari, the crystal, and the threat of the Shadow. Admiral Crane approached Lena. Commander Arvis, you and your crew did something extraordinary. Not just as soldiers, but as guardians of life itself. The galaxy owes you more than words can describe. Lena bowed her head respectfully. We only did what we had to, Admiral. The Solari entrusted us with their legacy. It was our duty to honor it. Crane's stern face softened. Then the galaxy will remember, and so will we. The crystal's gift in. The weeks that followed, the Solari crystal became a focus of research and understanding. Its knowledge, carefully decoded by Dr. Mira Han, provided insight into art, science, medicine, and philosophy. It taught humanity how civilizations could thrive in harmony, how memory and hope could persist even after catastrophe, and how courage could illuminate the darkest nights. Lena visited the lab often. Standing quietly beside the glowing crystal, sometimes she would close her eyes and imagine Elira's voice whispering through the light. Do not let the stars go dark again. The words were no longer a warning, they were a promise. A promise that humans, Deathworlders, and all beings capable of courage would protect the light in the universe. Rian once asked her, Commander, do you ever think we'll see another threat like the Shadow? Lena smiled softly. Maybe, but now we know. The galaxy isn't helpless. We are the light. And as long as we stand together, hope will always endure. A new generation. Months later, children on Earth Colony 7 gathered around holographic projections of the Solari worlds. They learned of Elira and Kale, of the Beacon of Dawn, and of the Deathworlders who carried their legacy across the stars. One child asked, Commander Arvis, will we ever see the Solari again? Lena knelt down, smiling gently. Their bodies are gone, but their light is everywhere. Every star, every memory, every story we share. That is the Solari. And now they live in all of you. The children's eyes sparkled with wonder. Some held small replicas of the Solari crystal, gifted to them to inspire courage and imagination. Lena watched them, heart full, realizing that hope could pass from one generation to another. never ending, never fading. Rian whispered, "You think they understand what it really means?" Lena smiled softly. "They will. And when the time comes, they'll carry the light further than we ever could." The legacy of courage, the fleet remained vigilant, patrolling the borders of known space. Though the shadow had retreated, the Deathworlders knew it would return someday. But they no longer feared it blindly. They had learned that courage, hope, and unity could resist even the oldest darkness. Kale recovered in a medbay specially prepared by Mira's team. He walked among humans, curious about their resilience and creativity. He often spoke to Lena quietly. "You carry what our people once dreamed of, strength, compassion, and the light of life itself. Never forget that. Even if the shadow returns, it cannot conquer what shines from within." Lena nodded. "We will remember Kale. Always." And so the crystal remained at the heart of the beacon, a source of light, knowledge, and memory. The fleet's journeys became a legend, a tale of courage and hope that would inspire generations. The galaxy remembers years past. The story of the Solari and the Deathworlders spread across colonies and civilizations. They were no longer just survivors of harsh planets. They were guardians of life, protectors of hope, and keepers of light. Planets once fearful of the Deathworlders began to trust them. Alliances formed, not through fear but through respect and understanding. The legacy of Elira and Kale became a guiding star for every explorer venturing into the unknown. Lena often stood on the observation deck, looking out at the stars. She remembered Elira's first plea, Kale's warning, and the battles against the shadow. Every moment felt sacred, a reminder of how fragile yet resilient life could be. She whispered softly to herself, "The stars remember kindness. Even when the world forgets." Ryan and Mira joined her. Together they watched the galaxy, alive with light and possibility. Somewhere in the depths of space, the beacon pulsed gently. Its glow was a signal to all beings that courage, hope, and unity could endure even the darkest of nights. That light could always return. And as the Deathworlder fleet sailed among the stars, carrying the Solari crystal and their legacy, Lena knew one truth above all: the light of hope was eternal, and as long as it burned, the universe would never be truly alone.